How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting, and welcome back to the actual last episode of Chapter 3 of Higurashi When They Cry, because I goofed up pretty good. I had a lot of fun reading your comments, a lot of them taking fair takes at me. So obviously not the most ideal way that this played out. It was just a bad combination of me misremembering how these things feel like they end. To be fair, I do feel like usually like the scenes I expect to see after the end of the last chapter, basically like after the last tips, I've always in the last two chapters, if I recall, was always fairly short, and then it rolled right into the extra. So like what would happen is I would record, and we'd be playing. It'd be about like a 10 to 20 minutes, and then it would be the over. And we would be at going to the extra. So I was like, yeah, like I can't stop now. Like that'd be a 20-minute episode, sure. To be at the end of chapter 3, that was basically 40 to 50 minutes of content, which really took me off guard. And I just wasn't really prepared for that. I could have recorded for another like 30 minutes, maybe an hour max. But I was worried that might not be enough time, or that I would feel rushed. And I figured between the two choices of feeling like, we cram in more, but it feels rushed, and really being able to kind of chew on things, I decided to go with the latter, which I know is not always the best choice or the most fun. And so I do apologize for that, but at the same time, I guess it's a good thing to put reminder of. And I was in the comments, I was also trying to be nice, obviously, about this, because I'm so glad you're so passionate and that you want to continue the story so badly. I do too. I really do. But you know, I've got a life outside of this. If I could be fully funded and be able to dedicate myself full time to this, even if it was like comparable to like a minimum wage job, if I crossed that line, I would consider, like, I would genuinely try to throw everything I have at something like at this channel. And like what I mean by that is simply like literally working at like a job, 8 hours a day type of thing. Oh, I could do so much more with that stuff. Man, if I could go full time, I think I wouldn't want to burn myself out, nor would I want to make too much content, because that is a genuine problem where channels are pumping out too much and people just don't have time or don't have the interest of keeping up with everything. But I could imagine in my head that we would go to a rotating schedule where we could do something like maybe 2 episodes in a row, and we do it all 7 days a week kind of a thing. So like I would do Higurashi episode, and then we could do the next day would be another Higurashi, and then the next day would do something else and just go block and block, or we could just keep the same pattern but just rotates through 7 days, constantly moving, so like there's just always something new to watch every single day, and but sacrifice some of that consistency where like, oh yeah, Monday's Higurashi day. I don't know, it'd be tough. Like I daydream about that all the time. Like I really wish I could, but there's only so much I can do. I'm working 40 plus hours a week. I got like other responsibilities because I, also have a social life. I also have, my own interests. I very rarely get to play video games for myself. Pretty much all my free time goes towards the channel because editing takes longer than you probably think, even for visual novels. Visual novels are some of the easiest things to edit, especially if you constantly have something interesting to say and you're constantly focused on like immersion of the content. You don't have to edit out too much, but in order to try and capture the best audio quality I can, in order to try and make sure it's all cohesive, and just try to make sure everything's like flowing well, it does take effort. It does take time. And even the minimalist part, processing takes hours of like compiling the video. It's just like the computer has to work on it for a long time and can't do anything else with the computer while it's doing that because it's just taking all of its processing power. So it's not like you can multitask too much. So yeah, it's a lot, but you didn't come here to hear me complain about channel running. It's just, you got to understand there's a lot I have to consider when I decide to stop recording. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's only so much time in my day. But I wish I could give it more. I really do. Hopefully someday. I'm going to work towards that, even if I really, like, the realistic part of me does not see it happening. There's too many people on YouTube trying to, be full-time and to be able to make it. I don't see myself being competitive enough because I'm not willing to lower my standards. I'm also not willing to chase what is like algorithmically successful. I just want to enjoy the games I want to enjoy and share them in the way I want to share them. So anyway, Other comments that were made, we are going to be doing the extra, kind of doing the all hands party thing. And then next we're going to be going to 4. Someone made a good comment that's good to just bring up now. That they said that they're going to be talking at the end of this like it's going to be moving into the next arc, the answers arc, but that's not exactly what happens. Chapter 4 is kind of a bonus questions arc, so we're going to be doing that, and it's just good to keep that in mind, even though they're going to talk about it. It's good that you did, because then I probably would have gone on these big rants today where I've been like, oh my gosh, like I got to get ready for this, for the answers arc, finally going to get the answers, and I'll be like, no, don't be an idiot. But yeah, I was also going through the store and noticed the other chapters in the future, like it goes chapters 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but then there's also like well, let me see if I can bring it up. So I don't know if you can see what's really fun like is that the first few of the games were free, like the first chapter's free for everybody, but chapters 2 and 3 I think were given to me by Manga Gamer ages ago. I remember wanting to talk to them, like telling them about that, and like they're like, no, that's fine. They were giving it to a bunch of creators when they put them out, but that was so long ago. I don't think they care. I don't know about me at least. But so I used to go here and I'm like, okay, yeah. So the only chapters I haven't purchased yet for whatever reason are chapter 7 and 8. But then I came up here and there's this Higurashi When They Cry, Ho Ray and Ho Plus. Where did those fit in? Like, is there a good spot for where I should play these? Because it looks like they came out much later, like published wise at least, on Steam. And so like, I mean, I just don't want to mess up order. Like, should these be at the end of it all? Should it be somewhere closer to the beginning? Like, where does this fall? And then if there are other titles that might not be on Steam, like let me know. Because that I could see that happening. I feel like I saw some chart way back. I've been trying to avoid spoilers, so I don't want to go look for it again. But I think when I started this, like I thought like a whole like chart of like recommended play order and like where the like something about the timelines and like where stuff like falls into place, kind of. And I remember there being other side stuff somewhere. And I feel like there's more than just these two. So if there is something more that I should be knowing, just let me know in the comments. Again, no spoilers, obviously, but let's keep that in mind. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I figured you wouldn't let me miss anything, but I should at least put that out there. Anyway, I think we're good enough. Just wanted to address some of the stuff in the comments. Wanted to just kind of say, I hear ya. I really do. I really want to make sure I make content consistently and make sure that the content is fun for everybody. So thank you so much for your support. Let us jump in and start theory crafting. Because you know what the funny thing is? I said that the last episode, like another reason why I wanted to stop is because my brain was exploding and I really wanted to sit and think about things for a while. And frankly, I'm not going to have a whole lot of satisfying things to say because there's a problem, a fundamental problem with theory crafting at this point, and that's the problem of magic or the problem of the curse. I can't sit here and say, okay, well, the curse is clearly not real. Like I've been saying for the first 2 chapters, I was always saying, like, there could be a curse effect that they're going on, but it's probably some kind of like self-justification. It's some kind of cover being used by the people. It made a lot of sense, especially in chapter 2, that the curse was more of like a cover story to try and help keep people quiet, so that if they noticed something or were witness to a crime, they wouldn't be likely to report it because they didn't want to be next, and then what didn't want to feel like, because they wanted because beyond just like, oh, like, hey, like a Yakuza type of threat situation where it's like, hey, it will come and take you out if you say anything. Instead, it's more of a like, look, you could go to the police, but divine retribution will find you. You will not be safe no matter what you do. And that's a lot more scary and a lot more encourages more compliance. That's what I assumed the curse mostly was a method of compliance, maybe something kind of spooky in the background, but a very minor thing. Chapter 3 kind of changes that dramatically. And so now I have to say, okay, well, let's go into this assuming now that we're in a type of place where curses are real. And this is a real thing. And then it kind of makes it difficult, though, because it's like, because I can't understand or comprehend the rules at this point. It's like trying to say, okay, if you were to decide, if you were to come to the conclusion that Cthulhu was real, what do you do with that information, right? Like, cool. An eldritch horror that shouldn't be around and shouldn't exist, exists. How does that functionally change anything? Because there's no way for you to comprehend more beyond the vaguest concepts of what that entity is. And that's kind of what Oyashiro is all about. It's like, I don't understand the rules that govern this entity. I don't understand what its limitations are. And the thing is that the story can kind of tell me whatever those limitations are, and I have to go with it at the surface level. And then you got to remember that we also have inconsistent and uninformed narrators. Keiichi is not somebody who is able to comprehend or understand all these situations. In fact, he often makes dramatic leaps in logic and assumptions that have been proven wrong before. So what even the game has been specifically good at pointing out that just because like we're told something works a certain way has no bearing on whether it actually is. So it's going to make this a lot harder for me to craft a theory about, because the game and the story can kind of deus ex machina itself whatever it needs at this stage. I think everyone's implying that the reason the story is so satisfying is because in the end it actually delivers on all the promises and on the story hooks that it's giving us, which would be an incredible feat on its own, because so many stories start out so promising and then just drop the ball so hard with stuff like this. So I'd be really excited to see a story that doesn't manage to goof it up. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, but it means that until that we get to that point, theory crafting is very difficult. So bear with me. I doubt I'm going to have a whole lot of stuff that's really that interesting to say, because frankly, there's only so much I can do. Anyway, enough of this title screen. Let's go. I'll cast review.
この度も日暮の泣く頃に酔いたたり殺しを最後までお楽しみいただき、誠にありがとうございました。
Thank you, Rena.
これまでのシナリオとは少し違う雰囲気でお送りしましたが、いかがだったでしょうか?
Sort of different atmosphere. Are you sure about that? That's all you'd want to say. It had like a horrific one. Okay, so actually, no, it's funny though, because like the atmosphere actually wasn't that different. The feel of oppression was a little more, was like, okay, no, it was different, but it was less so like just abject horror and existential dread, and more of like just pure, just kind of like, it felt gross in a way, because you had the abuse that just feels gross in general, especially because it was so true to life. Like, it wasn't hamming it up for the story, it wasn't making it super dramatic, it was so accurate to how abuse actually occurs that made it feel even worse, because it's like, this actually happens, and that's really crappy. And then you had the cursing, and like, it really took I still love. I think the reason why this chapter is probably the best chapter from a writer's perspective and a reader's perspective especially, is the fact that for the first time, we actually were on the side of somebody who wanted to use the curse, and like genuinely, I think all of us could agree, we were all kind of like, yeah, it feels like this is a good time for this. Like, it's amazing a story can take me from like seeing so much horrible, terrible things happen to people in the name of this curse or because of this curse, and then jump out on the bandwagon and be like, yeah, that guy's got to go. Like, that in itself shows the delicate nature of morality, and why it's actually a really decent argument for why we shouldn't use morality outlined by, culture or religion as the foundation and the only reason for passing something like a law, because morality can end up being real flexible for people when it's them that aren't directly involved in the problem. The saying "turn the other cheek" is really handy until you're actually being punched in the face. Then you suddenly won't feel like turning the other cheek anymore, no matter how generous you or compassionate you tend to be. Anyway.
お楽しみいただけたなら幸いです。
Okay, and I did enjoy it, but I also like it kind of walked away feeling gross half the time. Hi, Takano.
今回も胸のすくようなバッドエンドだったわね。私個人としては大災害が実際に起こった時の惨劇の描写も欲しかったところだけど、 みんなの感想も同じかしら?
No, actually, I disagree. I think the way we discovered it with Keiichi wandering in through a dead valley was way more impactful. While watching the villager spasming and foaming at the mouth might have been interesting, I actually think it would have taken away from the dread of what had happened.
そんなわけありませんでしたよ。またしても、またしても。大バッドエンド
So I'm still like, I get stuff in my lungs and I'm sorry, I'm gonna be coughing. I'm really feeling a lot better, but whenever I get sick, it tends to just drag out. And so that, unfortunately, is something you see rolling into all the videos I make. I feel better. I'm still feeling kind of crap.
あれれバッドエンドって割にはみーちゃんは楽しそうだね。
Are you saying it maybe because she finally isn't like one of the antagonists? Because in chapter 1, she was also very much attempting to commit murder, and in chapter 2 she was committing murder. So this was the first time where she kind of was just like the good character.
っていうか、もう笑うしかないってのが本音でしょうね。
Perfect summary, Sion. All we can do is laugh.
毎回嫌な割り方がエスカレートすると思ったら、とうとうここまで行き着いちゃったわけですからね。
I guess it's true. Yeah, culmination of entire village dies. That's pretty up there.
みんな仲良しで死んじゃったのですよ。
No. Last we saw, our friends pushed us off a bridge. That's not everyone dying together as friends.
仲良しなのです。ニパー。
Okay.
そういう見方もあるのかな。毎回死んでる僕はもうごめんだな。
That's true. Tomotake's got the short end of the stick.
たまには死なずにエンドを迎えたいね。
富武さんって時報みたいな役割なんですよね。
Yeah, he's a flag, unfortunately.
富武さんが死んだら、あ、後半戦突入だみたいな。さて、ではここで今回の会合に改めてご参加いただく皆さんです。
Coach.
拍手でお迎えください。まずは監督こと入江京介さん。
Hello.
ご紹介に預かりまして光栄です。
Please don't be as creepy here.
どうも脇役だったわけですが、トータルで見てみるとかなり美味しい役だったな。
That's such a
なんて思って
visual.
ます。
That's such a visual novel thing to say. Like I'm a minor character, but I had a portrait, so you know I'm kind of a big deal.
本当ですわね。脇役にしては出番もセリフも多すぎで、しかもキャラが強すぎましたよ。
That's kind of fair, actually. Yeah, I mean he still is. Though I would define him as a minor character because he only is like impactful in the plot a little bit, but he does give good context, especially for Satoko.
今後どれだけ出番があるかはわかりませんが、その説は応援よろしくお願いしますね。
ありがとうございました。では次に我らが担任知恵ルミ子先生。
Well, I mean, Shir Sensei was always there, though. Does it count that she's like a new? Except, I guess she was just more of a character and more of a participant this time.
皆さんどうもこんにちは。いろいろと登場シーンもあったのですが、今回カレー勝負で目立つシーンをいただきまして、カレーをバカにする人は許せません。
Wait, am I tripping? I'm pretty sure that the curry war was like chapter 2, right? No, you were about the whole like abuse calls.
誰もバカになんてしていませんよ。あ、知恵先生に席を空けてあげてください。
Miranda's like, please stop talking.
さて、これでとりあえず全員揃ったね。
Except Keiichi, who again is probably gonna just call.
レナ、また乾杯をよろしくね。では皆さん、各卓のコップをお持ちになってください。お飲み物はいろいろありますよ。
本当にお疲れ様会も賑やかになりましたね。今何人ぐらいいるんです？
私たちを加えて多分10人くらいはいると思います。
That's actually kind of a cool like point to make about the way they've done these chapters. As the chapters have progressed, they get to introduce like more characters or give them more impact. which means that it's not super overwhelming, because a lot of times I have seen where visual novels end up just dumping so many characters on you, it can just be disorienting. Being able to do it like this is actually a pretty digestible way of letting us all get kind of attached. Like Shion's a good example. Like, it would have been a bit much if in the first chapter we learned that Mion had an identical twin sister named Shion, because it would have been distracting for that particular plot line. But it was a really great gag to introduce in the second chapter that now is an established norm in the storyline, which is just like a cool way to explore and expand character development. It also is an indication that these stories were written in sequence, most likely, by the writer, and that changes were made and adapted and flowed as he wrote it. But it's just like, it's kind of fun because it works really well, because it's narratively appealing, and it communicates and doesn't overwhelm us readers too much, which is really good.
未成年人と成年人の人数比がこれでやっと互角かな。
That's an interesting comment to make.
これで胸を張ってアルコールが飲めるね。
ビールってなんで冷えてるとあんなに美味しいのに、ぬるくなるとあんなにまずくなるのかしら。七不思議の一つよね。
What's kind of funny too is, like, I don't know if is Japan on the drinking beer cold side, or are they on the drinking beer warm side? Because that's the thing, is like in Europe, like, cold beer sounds like crazy, but in America it's always cold. And I don't know which side Japan tends to fall on, but like I'm guessing it's more on the warm side, because the way this is being played off is more like a joke. Like, everyone's like, okay, you're crazy.
なんででしょうね。
さあビールを継ぎますよ。12345あれ、大人は6人でしたっけ？
僕も泡麦茶がいいのです。
The foamy barley tea.
リカちゃんもお酒はダメ。ではレナさん、そろそろお願いします。
Such a kind of minor thing that she wants to drink beer for some reason. That's weird. All right.
皆さん、ご清聴ですわよ。
Hey, Satoko.
では皆さん、日暮らしの泣く頃に水、たたり殺し、乾杯。
Bye.
せーの。
Like they actually counted it down. Did you hear that? It was really quiet. Say no. Yay! Clap, 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 clap.
さて、では毎回恒例の今回のシナリオ議論でもやってみますかね。
Yeah, let's get into this.
今回のシナリオもケムに巻かれっぱなし。意見のある方は挙手をお願いしますね。
Alright, well, first and foremost, like, the curse is kind of undeniable at this point. Like, it really is. Like, how the curse works, I'm not sure. But there's way too much, like, wild stuff that just could not happen normally. Like, the idea that everyone has memories of Keiichi being in a different place during that night. The fact that, like, we clearly killed somebody that should have been her uncle, but, like, there was no body there, and her uncle didn't die. Then also, there's just, like, Toмотaka-san again, not Toмотaka-san, Takano-san, like, acting so suspicious, seemingly having, like, Toмотaka-san's bike in her car, like, seemingly having performed, like, the murder on him, but then being found up in the mountains, burned to death. And again, the reflective from this previous chapter is that somehow she died up in the mountains before Watanagashi itself happened, meaning that somehow she was also in Watanagashi at the time, is just insanity. And, like, the fact that, like, it just, like, how are we supposed to reconcile these things?
お、みんな慎重。挙手ないね。
じゃあ私が先陣を切ろうかしら。申し訳ないんだけど音楽を変えてもらってもいいかしら。
Fourth wall breaking.
もう少しミステリアスな感じの。ああ、これがいいわね。
Gosh, she's even kind of creepy in these things.
ムードが出まくりなのです。では高野さん、お願いします。
Yeah.
多分ね。たたり殺しのシナリオだけを吟味しても謎は解けないんじゃないかと思うの。
That's the thing. I get that, but I've been trying in my head to go over the other two chapters and adding what we've now learned, and genuinely it just makes it more confusing. I don't feel like it actually is like, I don't feel like I have better information from all three yet. Maybe I'm just stupid though.
そりゃ同感だね。ここまで物語が重なれば、そういう仕掛けがあることは明白だしね。
そんな仕掛けありましたかしら。
これが正しい例かはわからないけど、鬼隠しで前原くんが大石さんとレストランで食事をして、それが園崎さんに知られていて不思議だったってくだりがありますよね。
In Onikakushi, when he was eating at the restaurant with Oishi-san, Sonozaki-san found out and it was a little mysterious. I mean, maybe, but like the whole point there was that like, well, like there's so many people in Onikakushi. Not Onikakushi. There's so many people in the fetch. I can't remember the other name of the city, but the people in town who could have seen and told somebody like me out about that. Like it wasn't too unreasonable to believe that the network of like the culty people would report on stuff like that, because like they keep an eye on Oishi and like, you know, probably report his movements to each other very, very often.
鬼隠しだけだと実に不思議な出来事ですけど、綿流しを読めば別に不思議でも何でもないことがわかります。
劇中の私が入ったレストランは園崎系列の店だったということですね。
Yeah.
園崎一族はこの辺りの飲食店やら何やらを経営しているわけですから。
で、ケイちゃんの顔を知る者があの店にいて、それを私に伝えたと考えれば比較的筋は通るでしょ。
Exactly. I mean, that's very reasonable.
そういうことだね。
Oh, okay. So I gotcha. So it's not saying that that's a great mystery. They're just showing that's a very simple version of how in part 1, part 2, and part 3, like well, part 1 and part 2 at least, we get the connecting lines to help explain exactly how that happened.
日暮の物語は微細に異なる場所もありますけど、
Subtle? I don't think it's subtle.
大筋の設定においては多分4つのシナリオは共通していると思います。
All right, what are the 3 facets that stay the same? Well, the first thing is Tomitaka-san dies. We know that, the things turn like as soon as like during Watanagashi festival day. Like that's where everything kind of phases through. And then I'm not sure what the other like I'm guessing I'm not even guessing the right ones because I feel like they're not substantial enough. They're probably thinking very specific things. I'm not sure if I'm picking up on them. Maybe Satoshi. Like Satoshi's role and like what his influence is a big part of it. How his actions parallel Keiichi's, because that was something that was consistent through all 3 stories.
例えばキャラクター設定。
鬼隠しのレナは怖い人だけど、それは鬼隠しだけの設定ということじゃなくて。
Rena, you were scary in all the stories, just in different ways, but you've always been a little scary.
レナはレナで4つのシナリオに全く変わらない設定で出演しているということですね。
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
全く変わらない設定というのは同感。僕がどのシナリオでも常に同じ場所で同じ死に方をするのはその最たるものだね。
I also think it's a good example of how, like, they are people, and the flaws and the characteristics they have are consistent. It just depends on the pressure that gets applied. Like, that's where it becomes difficult, because like, how influential is the curse? Because like, you can't truly argue that the curse is just making people be absolutely crazy. I think if anything, the curse is drawing out the worst in people's potential when they snap, because they feel like they get pushed to that edge, and they kind of, I think it's as soon as they make that conscious decision where like the best thing that they can do is to kill people, is to kill somebody, that's when the curse kind of takes over. So for Rena, it was because she got to the point where she got so scared that she and her family were in danger that as soon as she saw somebody who might be a better target, she wished in her heart that somebody else would die instead of her, and it ended up being Keiichi. That's who became the target. In the second chapter, Mion was trying to juggle all of her needs for the village, and she orchestrated like the end of the mayor. And part of the motivation for that was because she learned and knew other people knew that Keiichi had also broken the taboo. And I think she was so worried that he would become the target that she forced the direction to go towards the mayor. And from that point, things cascaded out of control. And so she wished the mayor would die instead of Keiichi. The curse took effect. The mayor does die. But then in order to try and cover up what happened and protect her friend, she ended up also killing Satsuko, Rika, and it just spiraled. It just completely spiraled at that point.
どんな物語になっても必ず同じ日に死にますですよ。渡流し編でお祭りの最中に高野さんと富武さんが西宮殿に忍び込むというシーンがありますけど。
Yeah, and while we don't see that in every chapter, I do think that happens every time.
あのシーンも他のシナリオでは描かれなかっただけで起こったことになってるのかもしれませんね。
But you gotta remember too, we've also learned that based on the logic of the timeline, the Takano-san who sneaks into the ritual implement storehouse is not the actual one. Somehow.
なっているそうです。綿流し当日のお天気や部活の内容、里子のおじさんの帰宅など、いくつかのイベントを除けばほとんどが共通するそうです。
Yeah. The weather, what we did in the club, and Satoko's uncle coming home, it's almost all the same. I think those are the exceptions.
だとすると、新しい疑問がいくつか湧きますね。全く同じ環境で語られる物語なのに、なぜああも違う物語に派生するのか。
Because the focus is on different people, and different people succumb to the curse. I think that's the difference. The curse is consistently there as well, and I'm guessing it has rules that it follows consistently every time, but the person who enacts the curse, or who embodies the curse for the story, changes, and that's what's causing the major shifts in the story and the way it plays out.
一般的なサスペンスアドベンチャーの視点で考えると、物語が派生する分岐点が存在したってことになりますね。
綿流しで言うと、お姉に人形を渡した、あるいは渡さなかったというあたり？あんな序盤の選択肢1個でバッド確定とは、恐ろしい選択肢だね。
Yeah, and that wasn't even like a choice though, like not the player made.
では、たたり殺しに話を戻しますと、この場合ですと、おじを殺そうと決意するあたりですかしら。
Yeah, I guess so.
私はずっとそれ以前、同居人の女性がトラブルで失踪して、おじがひなみざわに帰ってくることになったあたりから、もう分岐しちゃってると思うわね。
Yeah, but that wasn't like a choice that was made. That was just a story event. Like, maybe a choice was made by a different character, but not one of ours.
では、一番最初の鬼隠しの分岐はどこなのですか？
Onikakushi, not Fuchi, it's Kuchi. That sounds weird out of context. The choice there, most likely, is when Keiichi kept asking questions. Like, he could have, like, he says it so many times in that story. He says, like, I should have just stopped. I should have just not even bothered. If he just not asked any more questions, everything would have been fine.
やはり劇中の私が登場してお社様のたたりに関する連続開始事件のことを話すあたりからだと思いますね。
今思ったんですけれど、
ああ、
ちゃんと圭一さんがミオンさんの気持ちを理解して、それで大石さんも私のおじさんも現れなかったら、何も起こらずに平和に過ごせるってことなんじゃありませんの？
I mean, maybe. Like, the idea is that there could have been a plot, like a through line where things work out, which is basically the summary of like the story of Steins Gate. The idea of that, like, there's a bunch of choices that are made, and then we get to a bad ending. And the whole point is that you use like the manipulation of the time loop machine to try and figure out what choices are leading you to that bad ending.
へえ、さとこにしちゃ本質ズバリじゃないのよ。確かに言えてる。
じゃあこの暗い物語は大石さんとおじさんが現れないことを祈りつ
It's a lot tall order, but it'd be nice.
つ園崎さんのご機嫌を損ねないようにすればみんな幸せになれるということなのかしら。
The implication there that like Oishi coming in and interfering too much. Oh, that adds in a bad place. Satoko's stupid uncle shows up. That puts us in a dark place. Those make sense. Or Mion gets grumpy. Just instant death.
イエーイ、おねえバッドエンド要員。
Yeah, Shion.
みんな気をつけてね。おねえの機嫌を損ねるとバッドエンド確定ですよ。何よそれ。シオン、あんたには次は容赦なく痛い目見させてやるからね。
Jeez, calm down.
泣いた謝ったって許してやるもんか。待てこら。
これまでの物語の謎は全然解けないけど、どうやったらこの物語が大団円で終わるかのグッドエンドの推理はできちゃいましたね。
Yeah, plan, sure. A plan that you what? How do you communicate that to people in a story who can't contextually hear us talking in this like extra dimensional outside the story space?
本当にそれで幸せになれるんでしょうか。
Okay, he's got a decent point, but at the very least, we know it wouldn't take us to the other endings, so maybe we have a shot.
大石さんと北条哲平さんの不登場、ミヨンさんのお人形の件、本当にそれさえ気をつければいいんですかね。
No, there's probably other stuff. It would be really nice if Tomotaka-san also didn't die.
そうそう。みんなは一つ大きな最後を忘れてるよ。Hinamizawa大災害という天災を忘れたかい。
Ah, yeah, we don't know. That's what I was wondering at the end of the last part. It's like, is the Great Hinamizawa disaster, is it an inevitability? Does it technically happen in all the timelines? Because that's something else you could argue. We might have seen at the end of the chapters 1 and 2, Keiichi might die before the disaster occurs, but the disaster might occur anyway. We just don't know, because it's like the idea that this is what they're trying to really hammer home, is the idea that some events are just ubiquitous between all the different plots, regardless of whether you see them or not.
天災は防ぎようがないですわよ。
That's why you guys wondered, like, is it a natural disaster? If it is, then yeah, it's kind of an inevitability.
村のみんなにガスマスクを配って引っ越しでもしますの？あれはきっとお社様のたたりなのです。だからお社様を怒らせないようにしなければならないのですよ。
なははは。ややこしい話になってきましたね。
It is tricky, dang it, because like my instinct, my gut is to be like, oh yeah, it is a natural disaster. It just happens because it's a real thing that does happen. But then this last chapter was full of so much crap that just I cannot find a way to explain it beyond it must be a curse. Like I cannot get around it because there's just too much like stuff that's just way too weird.
つまりお社様も怒らせてはダメと。お社様を怒らせないためにはどうすればいいのでしたっけ？
ダムの計画そのものがきっとダメなんでしょうね。ダム計画がそもそもなければよかったんじゃないでしょうか。
Because that is when things started getting bad about like the repeated yearly ones.
それは難しいわよね。だとしたらお怒りになったお社様を鎮める儀式が必要ね。
鬼ヶ淵の沼に捧げ物を沈めるあの儀式ですね。
捧げ物って何をお社様に捧げるって言うんですか？
そりゃあ決まってるでしょう。どんな分岐にも関係なく話の流れから脱落が確定している人だよ。
Tomotaka-san!
どうせ死ぬならひなみざわのための人柱になってもらわなくちゃね。
That's so cold.
その脱落が確定している人ってやっぱり僕のことかな。
Like, why?
やっ ぱり二郎さんはこの物語に欠かせない重要な役割の人だと信じてたわ。お役目を立派に果たしてちょうだいね。
これで今度こそグッドエンドの大団円シナリオの青写真ができましたね。
No, because you know there's gonna be some other fetching thing.
せっかくだからちょっとやってみましょうか。
Hey, Tomotaka-san, let's go. I got the ritual dagger.
役者は全員揃ってることですしね。
First, we stop Uncle Hyojo, whose lover ran out on him for returning to Hinamizawa.
いやー、私が北条おじですよ。
I'm standing in as the uncle.
はいはーい。行き場をなくしてロンリーブルー。早くひなみ沢に帰ってさとこちゃんをお持ち帰りしてじっくり教育。未来はご奉仕メイドですよ。ではひなみ沢にバイクで帰りますか。キーを入れてカチッと
Boom.
カチッ。
Kaboom. Yep. Car bomb.
成敗、怪人に着せでございますわよ。さとこちゃん、火薬の量多すぎじゃないかな。
Hope Coach is alright. Next, we stop Oishi from showing up. We got a car bomb
今度は
again.
私ですか。
Is that what we're gonna go with? All the solutions to our problems? Car bombs!
私の名前はクラウド大石。ジャジーでブルースな感じがだいぶイケてるナイスミドルですよ。
Sure, buddy. Yeah, just car bombs. That's the solution.
成敗なのです。
そして忘れちゃいけないのがお姉へのアフターフォロー。
So, like, it's kind of funny because, like, it's like kaboom, and then Satoko's like judgment, right? So, like, she's got the greatest grudge. It makes sense. Satoko has the most direct grudge against the guy, and now we got Shion coming up for Mion, which, you know, granted, based on the way the story's kind of played out, it makes sense that there would be the most antagonistic feelings based on those things between those two. But then, why was Rika the one to call judgment when Oishi went? That's interesting. I wonder if that's a clue or just a happenstance.
ささ、お姉。
Here's the doll.
可愛らしいお人形さんですよ。よかったでちゅね。なんだか納得いかない。
で、最後にお社様の怒りを鎮めなくちゃならない。
Into the swamp with you.
では最後のお役目よろしくね。
Yeah.
踏んじばってすまきにして吊るして。
And hang him? Really? Oh, they put him in the cage,
3
maybe?
日かけて沈めるんでしたっけ。
面倒くさいですからここは一気にいっちゃいましょう。
Shove him in.
ガボガボガボガボガボ。
これにて一件落着。
You know it won't be that easy. The end.
突然レナの腕が光ってうなって大変なことに。
Oh, yeah, that's supposed to be the Chuni thing.
獅子類類で大変なことになってますのです。
Okay, she's finally calling in.
あれ、電話だ。もしもし。ケイチくん、お疲れ様です。
おうおう、相変わらず大盛り上がりみたいじゃねえか。
Like, you're leaving me out again.
こっちは次回の台本読みで相変わらず忙しいってのに。まあいいや、今日の俺は機嫌がいいから嫌味はなしにしてやるぜ。シオンはいるか？もう行っちまってもいいんじゃないか？
Oh, interesting. Why is she on?
あれ、今ここで発表しちゃうんですか？
Announce what?
とはいえ、もうすでに分かってる人たちもいるでしょうけど、まあいいか。
シオンさんとケイチさんの二人っきりの秘密ですって？何よそれ。
I was like, we're engaged.
聞いてない。
Okay, so her line's not here for some reason. Okay, Kei-chan, let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The main character of the next story will be Shion Sonozaki. Really? Oh, again, though, at the same time, this probably isn't actually the case because we have the additional story. But that's crazy, actually.
まあつまりはそういうことです。
So Keiichi's gonna be like a character that we interact with. That could be really fascinating. I can see why that would also be part of the answers, though, because that perspective from the Sonozaki family could give so much insight into what's actually going on.
初登場以来ダントツの人気ナンバーワン。
Is she really? Like, when she appeared, was like, were most fans really interested in Shion? I think she is a fantastic character, that's for sure. I don't know if she's my favorite character, though. She's up
姉妹キャラ
there.
でも遅れ登場した片割れの方が絶対に人気が出るってのはギャルゲー全盛時代から決められたお約束ですし。
TH. What's TH? Yeah, I'm not sure what TH is supposed to be.
わけわかんねえことはどうでもいいよ。とにかく俺はそのシナリオでは主人公のお役ごめん。
Fire seems a bit extreme.
風の噂じゃ俺のボイスを超えてるとか。
Oh my gosh, he'll have a physical body.
てっへん。俺の苦労を
まあケイちゃんのボイス数は異常ですから他のシナリオに入れるようになればすぐに逆転されるでしょうけど。
I'm thinking you're saying that because it would mean because he would almost never appear on the screen because we always see things from his perspective. But it's also kind of funny. Disk space, man. Back when that was a real big problem.
まあ園崎姉妹の実力ってやつをとくと皆さんにお見せして差し上げますよ。
でもいいんですのシオンさん。主人公は毎回ろくでもない最後を迎えると決まってましたよ。
I mean, to be fair, any story that we've seen Shion, she has also had a terrible ending.
まあこれまではね。でもね次回からは必ずしもそうはならないんですよね。
日暮の泣く頃に睡も今回のたたり殺しと外伝の染め写しで一区切り。ミステリアスな謎を次々と提示してきた出題編はここで折り返しになり、
Okay, so this is where they're referencing like answers, but it's not quite there yet.
次の章からはこれまでの謎に挑み、そしてさらなるドラマの幕開けとなります。
Yeah. Okay, making start of the investigation arc, temporary name. So investigation arc, but now it's become the answers arc. But again, it's also like something happened between here and there.
つまり私が名探偵になって理不尽な謎をバスバス解決していく痛快ストーリーなわけです。今のうちから決め台詞を考えておかないとね。
See, I wonder, is it going to be a different story completely, or is it going to be a repeat of a previous story, like maybe chapter 2, where it's just from her perspective? That'll be either one would be interesting, and I would be happy to see.
あなたをみたいな。
I'd also say like it could be interesting from her perspective if we get to see maybe the year before Keiichi shows up, which would be a funny reason why Keiichi isn't like if that's what would happen, that'd be kind of funny because Keiichi would be like, maybe I'll get a character picture this time, but he wouldn't because it would be about Satoshi. Like that, maybe that's what it will be. Is like will be a story from Shion's perspective about Satoshi, because remember she had feelings for him very clearly. Maybe I get the feeling that they were mutual but never properly expressed. But like that's the whole idea. Is like, what if we get to see their story and then we see him start acting crazy and then him vanishing? Like that could be an interesting thing to explore.
納得いかない納得いかない。御三家の秘密に近づきすぎて閉じ込められていたぶられて悲惨な最後を遂げる役に決まってる。お姉こそ私に全ての謎と秘密をカンパされて謝罪の言葉を口にしながら自害なされる心の準備は OK です。
Sheesh, harsh.
お社様のたたりの可能性はなしなのですか？
Maybe.
さて、
Why are you ignoring that?
そのしーちゃんが主役の目明かしに進むためには新しい警察資料が必要です。初めからを選んでゲームを開始すると主人公にシオンが追加されているのでそれを選んで進めてください。
So this entire time, like Rika has said stuff, but like it feels like nobody like is acknowledging what she says, like ever.
鬼隠し、綿流し、そしてたたり殺し。この3つのシナリオを重ね透かして、皆さんにはどんな真実が見えてくるでしょうか。
I have no idea.
推理はまとまるどころか、ますます煙に巻かれていくだけ。
I mean, like the problem is like all my previous theories are pretty undermined by all the meta magical crap that's been happening in the last one.
レナも全然わからないです。
For all you warriors that never yielded to these 3 mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario as thanks for your enthusiasm, one which we never originally planned on giving you. Please enjoy it. Oh, is that the reference to the next chapter? Like, kind of like an amendment they made. They say, by the way, we actually did another thing. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay, there we go. All right, so now that we've seen that, I'll kind of give my final thoughts on this part. And final thoughts on like how things are going to go from here on. So, what am I thinking? I think that the biggest thing that we get from Tatari-goroshi, Chapter 3, is the fact that there's something undeniable about the curse at this point. You could still chalk up a lot of stuff to people just being crazy, but having collective, like, visions, essentially, of, like, Keiichi being at the festival when he clearly was not, like, that's the biggest hurdle for me, because there's no reasonable explanation I could come up with how that could possibly happen without some kind of magical effect. Takuro-san somehow being at Watanagashi, helping them get into the storehouse and killing Toмотaka-san. Like, somehow all of that happening, but after she's already been killed, is, I can't understand that. Also, why would someone kill her so early before Watanagashi? I guess I don't understand that either, because usually the murder's supposed to happen on Watanagashi, except for the fact that Toмотaka-san does die then, so maybe they just had already orchestrated everything. Then you have the, like, experiences of, like, people who kind of snap. We have the eye color change, and, like, obviously you could just I was chalking that up to the people just kind of, like, they were always kind of crazy, but that's just them, like, kind of showing, like, their, like, the mask coming off. But this last time, it was like everybody went mad. Like in this chapter, we saw Rena go crazy and Shion and Mion go crazy, and they were both trying to lure Keiichi away, like basically implying they were going to try and kill him. But he managed to avoid them because he got caught up on all the other crap that was going on. And then some of you pointed out, like, I don't feel like Satoko really had her like crazy eye moment in this one, but some of you pointed out that like it did kind of look like that on the bridge when she pushed him off the bridge. But like, I don't know. I still feel like if anyone's been spared from the curse, like it's Rika, oddly, and then Satoko, because Keiichi definitely got the crazy eyes this time. Even if we didn't see it until the very end, he definitely got crazy eyes. And Rika, that was the other thing too. Like, why was Rika sacrificed in this chapter? What was that about? That was so random. And like I can't get over that one because it's like, it seems so out of the blue, and oddly, it didn't have to be a part of that story. There was plenty of excuses to get us where we needed to go with Satoko, but for some reason, Rika was also sacrificed. And that's the other thing too, is like, is Rika's being sacrificed a kind of canon event? Did it happen in the first chapter? Maybe. She just vanished at one point, so it's very possible. In the second chapter, she gets killed by Mion, so in a way she was sacrificed. And in this one, she's just sacrificed on the temple grounds and just left there. Like, why? Because that's the other thing too, is like, up until that point, as far as we could tell, the Watanagashi killings are relatively secret. They're performed in ways that are very obscure. But having someone who's been ritually sacrificed laying open and just abandoned on the ritual grounds is so blatant. Like, I don't understand why. Like, what would be, like, why would that stark change happen? And then you gotta wonder too, like, was that entire world weird and fake? Like, is there like some world, like it talked about that I really like the theory of, where Keiichi sets the ambush, kills the uncle, buries the body, but then he vanishes. And like if from his perspective, he just appears in this wacky Hinamizawa where he's just like everything's bananas, upside down, nothing makes sense. But then in the real timeline, like the uncle's dead, Keiichi vanishes, and the mystery never gets solved, but bad uncle go away. It's very, very interesting. And so like that's the problem I'm running into now. I still have to say, I think there is a cult there, and there is a cult that's involved, and that some of these killings do feel way more politically motivated than simply ritually motivated. But deep, deep down, it does seem like there is something to Oyashiro-sama. In fact, part of me is almost wondering, what if the recent killings have been basically the cult? So there's a cult, part of the three families, and this conspiracy and all that stuff going on, where they have been since the dam project, when they were able to successfully stop the dam project by having that murder occur. And after that, the three families just kind of realized that the true power of the curse is being able to get rid of people and being able to get away with it. And so from that point on, every year they just got rid of the most problematic person in the town. I still think that's a big part of it. And in fact, what if that is what's actually angering Oishi-sama? Because if they are using the curse as an excuse to just do what they want, that might be angering the actual spirit. If the spirit's real, which I have to kind of think, I think it must be. And so that's why things boil over in this year. And maybe that's why the natural disaster ultimately occurs, is because the whole village has walked away from what they were supposed to be all about. And so finally he just says, fetch it, you're all gone. Like, I don't care anymore. And like that somehow like his anger gets enkindled to the point where it just kind of trips over that ledge. So that could, to me, that's the idea that feels the most possible, because it seems to marry the two concepts. The idea that like I think there is clearly a cult of people who are performing politically motivated murders using the curse as an excuse, but that there is an element of this curse that is real. And if Oyashiro-sama is a real entity and it can be angered, it might not be bothered by a lot of the stuff that the city and the townspeople feel like would be triggering like the curse. But what's been triggering the curse are people who are using it and abusing it for their own gain, rather than out of homage to the actual spirit. And that's what's angering him so much. And thus his influence starts creeping in and eventually finds, I don't know, a specific person, a host, or like an envoy who just really desperately wishes for someone to die. And that's where the trigger point happens, and where he or it involves itself and kind of starts overriding things. So Rena for the first one, Mion for the second, and Keiichi for the third. So that's my running theory there, is that there is a real curse, but the killings up until this year have been basically just the cult side of it all, because they've been too systematic, they've been too targeted to political enemies of the Sonozaki family. It doesn't feel like it's just like the whims of a curse, because the curse itself seems to not care about the target. It's more about the motivation and the desire behind it. And that's really interesting to me. So that's kind of my overarching thoughts. It took a while to get to it, and it sounds dumb because it feels like such a cop-out. Be like, it's both. But it genuinely, there's too much evidence for both sides. I can't dismiss the curse. I've dismissed the curse up to this point because all the evidence really matched up with the idea of a cult-like organization and politically motivated killings in the form of ritual killings. It just made too much sense that way. But now that I've seen what I've seen in Chapter 3, I cannot just throw out the curse, because it's just clearly there is something to it. It's got to be there, because otherwise there's just fundamentally too many things that do not line up. It do not make any sense. So I have to say, okay, if I accept that the curse is real, did the curse motivate everything? And I cannot say that I think that's the case. I feel like the curse does not manifest in a way that seems to be that seems that way. In fact, the curse seems to not be limited by the whole 2 deaths thing. That's another reason why I think the curse itself is different from what we've been seeing in the last several years, because when we've seen it enacting in chapters 1, 2, and 3, it's been irreverently and like unrelated to the killings and deaths that have happened in the previous years. Because, frankly, like we get to chapter 1, so Tomitaka-san and Takano-san, they die according to the ritual, right? According to the actual thing. But then Rena goes crazy and wants to kill Keiichi, and they successfully do. Oh, but there's something interesting there too, is like, if that really was the curse, which it makes sense for, we also have to remember that Rena and Mion showed up at Keiichi's house with a vial of a liquid that likely makes someone go mad and essentially kill themselves. It's what it seems it was used on Tomitaka-san. But Takano-san, did she have that in chapter 3? In this chapter, I don't know if we ever... There was no implication that was used, despite the fact that in the first chapter it was very clearly what was used. And that vial went missing after Rena and Mion were killed by Keiichi in self-defense. He tried to leave that clue, and that clue that he left behind was tampered with, and the vial was stolen. So there's definitely something to that. I don't know. I still can't say I attribute that to the curse. I think that's part of like the whole cult angle. But it is odd that if I'm right that the curse is involved in Rena and maybe Mion deciding to take Keiichi out, why was the cult so compliant with that? That's also an interesting intersection there. And then because in chapter 2 it's a little cleaner, where it's all the cult basically, but Mion goes a little crazy and she accepts or becomes part of the curse, which is why she goes off the rails and just starts killing her friends. Because she loses her mind, and loses her mind in the sense that she decides that she wishes these people would die because it would fix everything that she's trying to preserve, and the curse kind of, it thrives and uses that drive, and then gives them the power, the boldness, and the mental fortitude to actually follow through. Again, I don't know. There's too much ambiguousness here. I cannot really just say like definitively, this is what I think and this is what it is. But that's the best I can work with. I hope that makes a lot of sense. I hope that you can kind of work with me on that and see what it does. There was one other thing that someone said in a comment that I'll consider, because they were saying one thing I should try to do is do a rap party at the end of chapter 4, because that's all the theory building episodes, and I should just do an overall like theory craft, like a proper sit down and maybe breakdown of the characters before we jump into the answers arc. I think there's something to that, because I haven't been doing my rap parties for the end of each of these chapters. What if we did 2 rap parties for the Higurashi series? One at the end of the questions arcs, where I basically go over like one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite moments, how do I think it all ties together, like a larger version of what I've done today. And then we move into the answers, but then we have like kind of chronicled and captured where I am in my theories and mental states and favorite characters and like my feelings of each of the characters before we actually learn the truth. That could be really cool. So I think that would be something I'd like to do. Let me know if you think that's a great idea. But for now, we will end things here. See, look, I managed to make this a decently long video. I managed to give some good stuff here, and I feel like I was able to give it the attention it deserved by splitting it up like this. So yeah, don't regret it. Let's go on with this. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support and for continuing to follow the series. This definitely is one of the better performing series we've ever had on the channel, and for good reason. I think it's probably really fun watching me flounder around trying to find the answers to everything. So hopefully you enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. Thank you so much for your support, and I'm looking forward to jumping into this 4th chapter. While some people have said it's not their favorite, I do think that anything that we get in here is probably, like, as they were writing the answers arcs, they realized that there was maybe other concepts, ideas, or characters they wanted to invest some of our time in before they felt like they could really pull the trigger on, like, delivering actual answers. So whilst it might not have initially been planned, I imagine it still performs a very, like, important function in understanding what the story is and where it's going. So look forward to that. Thank you so much. And until next video, you're watching me. I have to see me in next. I'll see you there.